So in the last video of this series, we set up the infrastructure, the copy, and the offer for an AI consulting business. And this is part 2, so I'm going to walk through the initial results from email campaigns, the sales meetings, and how well things went, and also what didn't go so well. And that actually worked out a lot better than I expected, and I learned a lot personally, and I want to share all of that with you. And this 100% applies to you if you want to get into AI consulting, which may be a great gig or service-based business to get into right now. But also generally, if you sell anything online to anyone, a lot of this will be relevant to you as well. Now, we are aiming to hit 1 million subscribers this year, so if you want to see more experiments like this, make sure to leave a comment with that and subscribe to help us hit that 1 million mark. So go watch episode 1 if you haven't seen it already, but otherwise I'm just going to get back into it right where we left off, and we're going to jump into instantly to see the results of the first batch of emails. Okay, so here's the reveal going off of the last video where we set up the infrastructure, the emails, the sequences, the leads, and now we've sent over 6,000 emails thus far. And the results are 65 responses, so roughly a 3% response rate, and 23 opportunities. That is good. It's not amazing, not out of this world good, but considering the kind of testing or validation stage that we're in, we got 23 opportunities. And I'll head over to the CRM, and what this looks like, and I'm going to have to censor these specific names here, is 9 interested leads, so currently discussing over email, but yet to convert to a meeting, 4 meetings booked, and 5 meetings completed. So valuing those at about $8,000 a pop, that is a pretty good $184,000 of potential value in the pipeline, and the total cost to set all of this up was maybe, $200. So is this actual cash collected? No. But is it a good start? 100%. This is stellar, at least in my experience, and compared to a lot of offers where you put emails out there and you just don't get any responses. And what's really nice about email and outbound email is that if you can get 1 response consistently, you can probably get 1,000. And if we just turned that 6,000 sent into 600,000, which would cost maximum a few $1,000s, then we can also 100x this 23, and we can have 2,500 opportunities and hundreds of sales meetings booked. So in my opinion, we validated the outbound side of this. We validated the meeting side of it. What's just next is we need to see if these meetings convert into clients. And about probably, let's say, 2/3 of the response rates here were positive, and 1/3 of those were rejections. So just, hey, we have someone who does this already. And there were a lot of people actually who responded and said, we just hired someone, for example, to work in AI kind of internally or AI tooling for our company. But that's still a net, 2% or so positive response rate on these 6,000 emails sent. You can see the rough 1 month, 10th of March to about 15th of April period here. So that's about 10 meetings booked in the span of a month from those 6,000 emails sent. And keep in mind, the 6,000 emails is not 6,000 leads. We started about 2,000 sequences and contacted leads multiple times. So roughly 10 meetings, but let's say 23 opportunities into 2,000. That's roughly 1 opportunity per 90 or so people that we get in touch with. And there's some pretty heavy hitters in here as well. I unfortunately, again, cannot show you the actual people and their names that we contacted, but a lot of these businesses, they do $100+ million a year, and one of them especially is a multinational company that does well over $1 billion a year. So these are not small or local businesses, and they are diverse in the industries that they're in. There is a brewing company, several education companies, a media company, some manufacturers, biotech. It really is this very interesting, diverse range of companies that responded to here that I was able to speak to or will be speaking to shortly. So I have a few observations here about why we were able to get these pretty good results right off the bat. So what went well and what didn't. Let's go get into that right now. Now, before I share my thoughts about what really I think went well there and what didn't work so well, you may have seen in the last video that when we were creating infrastructure for this business, I used a .online domain extension. And I did that because .online is the world's second largest new domain name extension with over 500 million monthly searches that include the keyword online as part of it. And hundreds of thousands of online businesses and creators like these and like myself and potentially like you all use these .online domains for their and as their digital home. So if you're following along with this challenge, make sure to get yourself a .online domain using code Jon Law at checkout, and it will be just 99 cents for the first year when you do that. So to do that, just head to get.online and again use that checkout code Jon Law or click the link in the description to go get yourself that perfect .online domain. That said, you saw the results from the campaign, so let's go jump into some of my thoughts on what again exactly went really well there and what we need to improve. Okay, so I pulled out the 3 yays and nays I think of the experience thus far. So some things that have worked really well and also just what didn't work so well and what I want to change in the next stage of this. I'll start with the positives, so what worked really well. First off, I am a student. I am a graduate student, and that worked really well as part of the pitch. There's a lot of trust, I think, with at least the school or the brand that I'm at, and with just the general notion of someone who has kind of been validated by another institution, right? If you are this is not me, but let's say a PhD student at Harvard, right? People are going to intrinsically trust you a lot just because of that. But also people generally help out students more than they're more willing to help out students than they are willing to help out other people. So I am a student, and so I can say this and reference this. I'm not saying lie here, but if you are a student and you are young, and I know that a large portion of you watching this are, then that is a great thing to include in your emails, and people really like to connect with you over that. What you can also do is reach out to people in the same city as your school or people who used to go to your school. And that is this instant kind of network connection, interaction between you two that can form a really solid relationship and also just get more people to respond to those initial emails and just really give you a chance. And a lot of people are willing to. Like, again, these are people you're reaching out to, even if they are big businesses. So if you sell the person and if you just not even sell, just connect with the person and build a real, genuine relationship over things you have in common. Things like, for example, a school or their memory of being a student, then you will be all the better off for it. And so number 2 here is the case studies and references side of it. And pretty much in any business that you're in, if it's just you or it's small or an agency type offer and you're selling people, they're going to want to see, and they will 100% ask the question of, who else have you done this for? Can I talk to them? If you haven't done this before, if you're just starting out in some kind of service business or offer like this, it's not the end of the world. Like, just changes your pitch slightly. If you have this, and this has really helped me in these emails and case studies, or excuse me, in these emails and these sales meetings, then just having a list of, this is what I've done, this is who I've done it for, and this is how you can get in touch with a few people. That is really valuable in building trust and conveying like, hey, I can put my money where my mouth is. I can actually deliver on what I'm selling to you. So having that on hand, having a sheet that looks good and that is complete, that has helped a lot in, again, these conversions we've seen thus far. Now next, the big win here was just the fact that emails actually converted into meetings, right? Because we were sending not that many emails per day, like let's say, 1,000 emails total roughly, and let's say 10 meetings or so total, right? If we want to scale that up, if we just invest $500, $1,000 a month in email infrastructure, that 10 sales meetings, that can go up to 300 to 100, whatever the number is per month, because there is no limit really on the amount of people we can reach out to. It's all about the conversions. And really, everyone who did converted on the first email. They were interested enough in the initial offer to reach out. I talked about this prior, but generally, that is, in my mind, the big win here, and that validates a lot of this. And the next stage of validation, of course, is the sales meetings and actually converting into clients. But just getting meetings in the first place, that's really a lot of the battle here as well. So just that offer of AI consulting, and this is my background, that works, and that works in generating meetings, which is, again, that first stage kind of passed as far as validating the business goes. And you'll have to do this, you'll have to validate or be at the validation stage for anything you're involved in, AI consulting or not. So if you get an indicator like this where people see an email about it, about you, and they book meetings off of it, at relatively little scale without a lot of optimization, that is a great positive indicator, and for us, a big win here. Now, those are the yays. Well, what about the nays, or the not so good? The first is the benchmarking offer, and this is a mixed bag. That's why I say kind of here. And what I mean by this is what I just said, right? A lot of people converted because of that first email. However, the benchmarking offer, and this is what I spoke of in the prior video, where the specific offer is, hey, I'll come benchmark out for free in your business how you can use AI, and then I just charge to implement those solutions. People tend to be more interested in a specific solution, right? Like they come onto a meeting and they say, hey, I want X, Y, and Z. I don't have someone who can do it. You are the AI guy. That's why I responded to your email. And so my take on this is that the benchmarking offer is general enough that it establishes you as kind of the AI guy. And maybe that's valuable because then a lot more people respond to that first email and say, hey, I have a specific project in mind that I want you to work on. However, that obviously isn't what the actual benchmarking offer is. And so it's a mixed bag, right? We got a lot of meetings and the benchmarking offer was part of those emails that led to the meetings, but people don't seem to actually convert just going off initial sales meetings on the benchmarking offer. And rather they want to talk about a specific problem they're dealing with and then how me, in my case, can use AI to solve that problem for them and implement the solution. So that's number one. Number two is meeting follow-ups. What I found is there were a lot of reschedules for this. Like I was on average, let's say, rescheduling 10 meetings 15 times, meaning some got rescheduled twice. Just a lot of kind of moving parts here, which you don't really want to see in a sales funnel. Now, obviously, that's going to happen across the board, especially when you're dealing with busy people. But what I didn't do well here, and this is just my laziness, was do consistent follow-ups. So just emailing the people, and you can set up automations to do this. You never want to do it manually. 2 days before, 1 day before, an hour before before a meeting. And then critically, what in the past I've seen work really well is just calling the person the day of, an hour before, and say, hey, you sure you can still make this meeting? They say yes, and then you get on the meeting an hour later. And that way, if you do need to reschedule, you aren't wasting anyone's time, and you can reschedule to find a date later that 100% you can both make. Nearly everyone who misses a meeting or who needs to reschedule still is willing to take the meeting if they responded to the initial email. It's really just you have to be consistent in your follow-ups. So I can do that better with this offer and what we've done here in the future. And number three is, while I have a lot of case studies and references generally, again, I've been doing work like this for a long time, I don't have many industry-specific case studies and references. I've worked a lot in some specific industries, and there were wide variety of sales meetings that I had, or just different companies I talked to. And so I don't have a manufacturing AI project that I've done, for example. And that's going to hurt me when I'm talking to a company that wants those kinds of references. So that just has to come with experience and just doing work of this sort for enough companies, and then just the network effects there of then selling into similar industries and businesses and using those initial jobs as references. So that is something that long run just kind of compounds the conversions that you get. So there you have it. That is what worked and what did not. Now, as far as who to target or demographics and what changes I want to make there, I don't know, right? The problem there is we got sales meetings with a radically diverse host of businesses, whether that's physical, manufacturing, SaaS, biotech, marketing agency, just across the whole board, we got meetings. And there is no obvious kind of demographic to target moving forward. So what I'm going to do is continue with this kind of hit all, spaghetti on the wall outreach on the email side. And then as clients start to close and deals start to come in, then I'll take that data and use that to formalize, hey, who are we targeting here? What kind of demographics? What size of business? What job role as well? And so out of all those emails, we got all of those sales meetings as well that I mentioned, and 3 or 4 of those now are looking like they'll turn into something. And I'm currently in those secondary discussions with the management to figure out what the specific project or timeline or cost is. So these are what a lot of those deals look like. It's just me speaking to one or two people at the receiving company. And generally, they just want to hear about me, right? They generally know what they want and they're interested in the service, but they want to know who I am, my background, what I've done, and specifically what I'm looking to offer to them. And what seems to be the case, at least in my experience in sales and in meetings of this sort, is that it's really about networking and relationships a lot more than you would think. People may like the service that you're offering, but if they like you, they are that much more likely to put the extra mile in, to speak with other people, to get the budget approved so that you can come on board or get your project started, versus the inverse, where they don't like you, but they need the service. And that's ultimately because a lot of people typically offer what you're offering. You probably are not offering something that no one else does. If that's the case, amazing. They're gonna close everyone just because they need it. But if that's not the case, what's the differentiator? Either it's price, and you don't want to just drive your price to the ground to compete with people who, say, work from third world countries online. You want to compete on an extra layer of service and quality, and also just relationships, on people liking you because you can relate to them and you can speak to the specific problems that they're facing. And that certainly applies to this niche or this sales, this offer of AI consulting, because these people, these big companies, can go to a lot of places for that service, but if they like you and you talking to them and what you're pitching them, then you can get that deal over much more established entities. And that doesn't mean don't compete on price, do that as well, just play the hand that you're dealt, and typically that will be the personable nature of you, and you're really selling yourself in these situations, again, in addition to the service or what you're offering. That is episode 2. There will be a lot more juicy stuff coming in episode 3. And again, make sure to go to get.online and use that code to get a 99-cent .online domain extension.